As a kid, I loved the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. When Calvin would be knee-deep in a project that his dad had wrangled him into, or get into a sticky predicament, and he'd start to complain, Calvin's dad would remind him that he was building character. We brought our oldest son home from the hospital a little over 7 years ago, and we've been building our little characters ever since. My husband and I marveled at everything that our precious baby did. He could not have been more perfect. When Noel, our oldest, was barely 1, we found out that we were expecting again. I surprised my husband, Elliot, with a positive pregnancy test on Father's Day. We remember it fondly when that holiday rolls around, and he reminds me that I should never surprise him like that again. While we were still blissfully unaware of how 2 kids would turn our world on its ear, grow and fill our hearts with abundance, Noel learned to walk. One day we were outside in our backyard, grinning to ourselves as Noel toddled around sniffing flowers and picking dandelions. He toddled toward us, treasures in hand, a giant toothy grin on his face. We smiled back at our sweet boy as he brought us something that wasn't a fistful of dandelions. It had a tail. As he drew closer, we could see that it was a dead rat that a stray cat had deposited in our yard. I screamed, "Drop it!" as my husband grabbed the nearest stick he could find to bat the dead rodent out of his hand. Noel immediately burst into tears. The more we yelled and freaked out, the more upset he got and the tighter his grip got. Eventually, we got that special gift out of his hands, and I ran him to the bath while I said over and over, "Don't touch me!" very calmly. Just when you think you have it figured out, the universe will take the opportunity to point its finger at you and laugh. Especially if you've been smug. New parents, take heed. Do not brag about how great your first baby is. While Noel was a dream, Lennon was, I don't want to call him a nightmare exactly, but he was a challenging infant. He never slept except in fitful cat naps, day and night, and he had reflux, so he cried a lot. One day we'd gotten him to sleep in a bouncer and sat back in our living room to let him sleep. He would sense when I walked out of the room, if I wasn't close by enough. Our plan was to let Noel play quietly while we snoozed on the couch for a few minutes. All was peaceful for approximately 30 seconds. I heard Noel pitter-pattering around the room and peeked through my sleep-deprived eyes to see him standing over Lennon with 2 pan lids in his hands. In slow motion, I reached out to stop him, but it was too late. Crash went the makeshift cymbals. Lennon shrieked and has slept with one eye open ever since. Another lesson that I learned is that although your oldest may like babies, it doesn't mean that he will instantly fall in love with your new baby. I recall several times when I tried to snap photos of my 2 sweet boys together, I'd place the baby gently on the toddler's lap, and while I was preparing to get a picture of the tranquil moment, Noel would stand up and dump the baby onto the floor. "Noel, you have to tell me when you're done holding Lennon." "Okay, try putting your arm around him." "No, too tight." "How about putting your hand on his leg?" Meanwhile, the baby is teetering over from his already precarious position, the toddler is running off to play with the dust bunny that he's found under his bed, and the serene picture that I'd envisioned instead involved a tipped-over baby, crying, a blur of green PJs, and of course, a dust bunny. The early years of motherhood were what I call the character-building years. Now that my boys are older and I'm wiser, have the beginnings of a wrinkled brow and some gray hair, I can safely say that we've got this. My children love each other and are each other's preferred playmates, despite the occasional argument. They will let me take their picture together. They may make silly faces, but no one falls over. And I also know that they would only give me a dead rat as a gift if their grandfather put them up to it.